Today we are here with Amanda Francis, who has been with us for almost 2 years now. You've been with the Personalized Health Center, and as many of you know, she is the person who actually does, I always say, keeps all of you on track with your nutrition goals, because by her booking you in and hounding you to get into those appointments, she has helped all of you get to your goals more than you think. So, Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Harry.
The reason why I'm bringing Amanda on is because I just want you guys to know who we are, and as a staff and as a team. And I think it's important that you meet Amanda because she's got tons of information, and you guys see her all the time at the front desk, and she's going to be practicing in the next coming months. So it's good for you guys to get to know her. So, Amanda, let's just start with the most basic question. Where are you from?
So I was raised on the west coast of Vancouver Island, right by the ocean. I pretty much grew up walking distance to the beach my entire life. So being here in Ottawa is very different for me. Oh, yeah. Lots of trees, lots of water.
And so how long have you been in Ottawa for?
2 years now. This will be our third, just starting our third year.
Well, you guys have moved around, right? Because your spouse is in the military. So what are some cities that you started in BC, and then what are some other cities that you've been to?
So we started in BC. We've been Vancouver, Victoria. Then we moved to Nova Scotia. We were in Halifax for about 4 years. My oldest was born there. And then we moved back to the island, traveled around. There's a couple different bases on the island. So we lived in a few different places. And now we're out here in Ottawa.
So how long have you been in Ottawa for before you applied here?
4 months, 3 months? Not very long. Yeah, like I kind of moved in, got settled, got everybody organized because it takes a little bit to kind of find your grounding, and then went, okay, what am I going to do? I'm next, right? You're always last in line.
And so how did you get into, so Amanda's a nutritionist, right? So you did the same designation as me and Caroline. So you did your Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. So, but you did it with a specialization in, I think it was prenatal, correct? You did an extra course?
Yeah. So after I did CSNN, I went to Vancouver and worked for a year with a company there specializing in pre and postnatal nutrition.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so what got you involved in nutrition? What started your journey that you said you want to help people? What was the turning point? I want to hear the story.
So I always had healthy options as a child. We, again, raised on the coast. My family all had gardens. We grew everything. We went fishing. We hunted for our food. It was just something that's what my life was like. I didn't know any different. And then when I moved away and moved into the city and was a young adult, I realized that that's not how most people live. Like a very small percentage of people live that way. And we went for it. We lived in the city. We ate all kinds of crap. We did all kinds of horrible things to ourselves. And my partner and I saw our health decline big time, especially his. He had a high stress job, overweight, high cholesterol, under 30. And the doctor's going like, whoa, buddy, like you're not looking very good. So I started tweaking a couple things then, just basic stuff. I mean, it was still nothing to what I know now, but just kind of started into my health. But it really wasn't until my second child was born and I was faced with some issues that she was having as an infant, like a few days old, that I changed some things in my diet, and that was a major help for her and really just made me think about every little thing that we put in our bodies and how it affects us. So that was kind of the major turning point for me.
And so were you a nutritionist at this point before you had your second child?
No. So
okay.
I started school when my daughter was 6 months old. I just...
Knowing you, that's why I say, yeah, that's right. That would be what Amanda does, so.
Yeah, I was like, I have to know more. I have to know how and why these changes that I've made have affected this little human and affected me so much. So from there, I went to school at CSNN and did that. And that was it. The doors were open. The floodgates were open. I was changing everything in our household, family, anybody that came and would listen. I started with them. Yeah.
So it's just basically like a self thing. So you saying to me, I know that you've sent me pictures of how your dad went and got fresh fish from the ocean and that's what he's eating. So how big of the change was the food that you were eating as a child towards, what happened? Like how big of a shift are we talking about here? Was it like standard, like farmer food that you ate growing up, and then you went into the city and then got it all, and then all the negative stuff started happening? So like, give us like an example, a couple of examples of what food looked like as a child to where it was before the nutrition change started.
Yeah. So as a kid, everything was grown in the garden pretty much for the most part. And then it was harvested seasonally, and we would can everything and freeze. Like we had deep freezers with frozen beans and tomatoes, like everything was preserved. That said, we still ate pasta like crazy, and there were other things that snuck in there. And my dad would hunt and fish, and we'd preserve everything and can it. So everything was caught. Really, we ate out of the freezer. Like that, there was no grocery shopping really. Everything just came from what we had, which was great. And then when I left in my early 20s, I moved to Vancouver and had no access to a major like, you got the tiny little freezer. And so we just ate takeout and all sorts of ethnic food. And I worked 2 jobs, and so I wasn't meal prepping. I was drinking lots of coffee and then staying up late and drinking wine. Like there was no consistency. There was no routine. So I kind of just went full the other way. Yeah, like buckets of gelato from Little Italy, just everything. I would eat it all, yeah. But it wasn't
best times of our life, the best times of our life, as I say. So then you changed your nutrition after having daughters. So are you comfortable sharing with how old the children are?
Yeah. So I have 2 kids. My oldest is going to be 11 years old in April, and my youngest will be 7 in like a week.
And so, the major question that everybody always wants to ask nutritionists is, what do you eat at home? You work, right? The 2 kids are in sports, right? I think Evie's in gymnastics.
Yeah.
Your eldest does the best sport in the world, which is BJJ, right? Rugby, in that range. And then you've got a spouse that works. Busy household, lots of activities, and you and your spouse are both active as well, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, what does a day in Amanda's nutrition world or day look like? So that way we can just get an idea and just see if there's anything that our viewers or our clients can take from that in terms of food. So what does Amanda eat in a day? That's what everybody wants to ask all nutritionists. As a mom, 2 kids, active lifestyle, busy lifestyle, how does food work for you in a day?
So we'll start with saying, like, at this point, for me, the nutrition goal is to feed everybody as healthy as possible. That nobody's in a weight loss phase, nobody's in a weight gain phase. We're just trying to feed ourselves so that we are functioning optimally. So when I get up super early before daybreak, it's quiet in the house. First thing I do, a liter of water. First thing down the hatch. I'm not a huge coffee drinker, so occasionally I will have a cup of tea or something in the morning, but it's usually just my liter of water. It might be hot in the wintertime. If it's cold, I'll have warm water instead.
So sorry, I'm just going to like you wake up. So what time are we talking here? Are we talking 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m.?
5 a.m.
So 5 a.m. And so then what type of tea, right? Is it like, because remember, tea could be, someone could be like green tea, white tea, MCT oil mixed. So what is it? Just so
for sure.
Yeah, okay.
That's fair.
The tea look
so it varies again depending on how I'm feeling and the time of year. So like this morning, I just had water. Yesterday, I had 2 tablespoons of raw pumpkin, turmeric, ginger, nutmeg, cinnamon, hot water with a little bit of maple syrup, and whipped that up, and it was delicious. Other days, it's just a chai. Other days, it's mint tea. It really just depends on how I'm feeling in the morning, but it does range. Generally, if I'm going to have cream, not cream, but like a milk of some sort, it's like twice a week. It's usually my weekend treat where I'm like, sit down peacefully. My mornings are not peaceful. Like I'm talking like water, lunch is on the stove. Like at this point, I'm drinking my water. I've got breakfast out for everybody. I'm prepping food. So at this point, then I'll get everything out for the day because I have to make breakfast and lunches for everybody first thing in the morning. I don't have to. It's my choice. And I do these things first thing in the morning.
You like it. Well, you like it. You like the kitchen, right? So I think there's nothing wrong with that.
I like the kitchen, and if I don't do it, I know what the alternative options are for everybody else in the house. So in order for like some control, it's what I do. So breakfast for everybody, it varies, but it's usually some sort of eggs, or for those in my house that can't have eggs, we've been really enjoying like the turkey sausages, or we'll have leftover ground bison from the night before, really any sort of meat protein. Sometimes there's leftover steak. It's kind of a breakfast is what do we have left over from last night? Lunches are generally the same. I try to double up my dinner portions so that we automatically have lunches for the next day. So I just pull things out. I'll make fresh rice if I need to, and then everybody kind of picks in there. So breakfast will be, like I say, there's some eggs, there's some meats, some protein, and then sometimes it's berries, sometimes it's applesauce, but it's nothing really fancy. And then their veggies, usually, sometimes I'll just eat raw. Like I'll chop. I'm making lunches and I'm like, cucumber, carrots, okay, done, right? Like it's not necessarily a sit down thing for me, just time-wise in the morning, but it always works.
So breakfast, the protein, what would you have? Would you have like a veg? Would you have like a bone broth soup? Would you have fruit? What do you have? A toast? What is it that you'd have? What generally is rolling around?
Always eggs. For me, I like eggs. Hot sauce. Gotta have hot sauce.
So your eggs and hot sauce. And then for lunch, I smell your food. It's always colorful, right? Yeah. So I've seen you. It looks always pretty. I'm like, man, she looks like you know me. I don't make my food look pretty. I just eat. Your food has like colors and different things going on. So what'd you have for lunch today? Just as an example.
I would rice bowls. Rice bowls are like a go-to for lunch. They're a go-to for everything in my house because everyone can pick and choose what they want. So rice, protein, I'll make 2 different types of proteins, and veggies. Pick your veggies, carrots, your type of greens. Sometimes you'll have avocado, pumpkin seeds. Really, it's just a go-to. So today was rice, ground bison, avocado, pumpkin seeds, sauerkraut.
And then what happens after school? So like now kids are done, you're coming home, they've got to get to activities. What's that meal look like in between? Are you guys eating like a small dinner or like a light meal before or after? How does that work? Because that's the time that a lot of even our clients struggle with and always have questions about is what about that after school to activity kind of meal? What does that look like?
So we're pretty lucky in that most of the kids' activities, like I'm picking them up at like 6, so we're not staying super late for activities. So generally the rule of thumb is for post-school is if there's anything left in your lunch, because I'm not throwing away food, I refuse. Like it's too expensive. There's no way. So that's generally what they go to. Or if you open up my fridge, if you were to take a snapshot of my fridge, there's lots of options, but it's pretty limited in a way, right? You have your fruit, you have your veggies, there's some protein, everything's cooked, everything's prepped. So the rule is if it's there and it's not for dinner, it's not on the dinner list, you can have it. You can have it and eat it. So they'll usually just finish their lunch. And then for dinner time, I either have something in the slow cooker, like in the Instapot or the slow cooker, or I've made something on the weekend that is 2 meals. And like I say, I try to make, if I'm going to make a curry or I'm making some sort of soup, I make a big batch of it and I will even freeze it in the freezer so that, you know, if it's a busy morning, say this morning we don't have time to make dinner, I just go downstairs, I pull it out, there's dinner. That's what we're having tonight. You just have to heat it up in the pot because you're cooking anyways.
So I want to touch on one thing. You said list. What is that list? You said you have a food list or something of that sort. So what does that mean? What is that? Is that because that could be a great trick for somebody to know? What do you guys do? What does that list mean to you guys?
My family curses me on Saturday morning because the very first thing I do is make myself something warm and delicious. And I sit down on the couch and I go around and say, so give me 2 things you would like to eat this week. And everybody gets input. Some people give more than others and some just sit there and go, I don't know what I want to eat. And therefore then it's fair game. I get to choose what we're having and there's no complaint. From there, then I will make a grocery list. I usually try to make things with similar ingredients to keep costs fairly low. Say if I'm going to go buy a 6-pack of romaine, well, what things can we use this romaine for over the week? So we make the grocery list and I go to the grocery store and then I have it all mapped out, all of our meals mapped out on a calendar for the week, like just a weekly calendar of what we're eating with the ingredient list so that whoever's come first is in charge of like prepping food and cooking, and they can just look at the list and see, okay, well, this is what we're having.
So give us I'd like to know, like, is it themed? Is it all over the place? Like, is it, because I know I've met your kids. They're eclectic with their nutrition, with their food, right? Like they're very brave. Like they'll eat everything.
Yeah.
right? Whether it's like, so what, give us a sample of what a theme would be, like what would be something that a meal that your kids would say?
Oh, meal my kids would say. Oh, my
Yeah.
kids really like tacos.
Okay.
So in that instance, sometimes we'll make like homemade tacos, but sometimes I don't want that. So then I'll just I'll make a salad out of the fillings, and it'll have everything from like sweet potato to pickled red cabbage, avocado. I usually will do ground bison in there. We'll have lots of cilantro. The radishes have been really good lately, so I'll chop up some radishes with some lime and some salt. It's all just very fresh. It's not like a traditional, when people think of taco, they're like meat and cheese and, yeah, it's like more of like a fresh style.
So you follow like the buffet style, right? Like they pick tacos, you prep all the food, and then it's just basically you can have what you want on your taco. I'll have my own thing. So that's kind of what we see as success when it comes to clients, when it comes to food changes, right? Because you have your own goal-oriented nutrition, and that gives you flexibility to be like, okay, they want tacos, I want rice, right? So it's kind of like a nice Mexican is like the best. I would say it's a very family favorite for everybody. And so, okay. And so in terms of food time in the kitchen, so you obviously make a lot of food from home. Obviously, you're probably pretty sharp in the kitchen. How many hours or minutes would you spend, let's say daily or weekly? Let's just start with roughly daily. How much time would you and your spouse probably spend in the kitchen per day? 2 hours, an hour?
It's probably, for all 3 meals, I would say it's probably about an hour, hour and a half, depending on what we're making.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so weekly, that's about 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
Or 10. Sorry, I've got bad math. Good. Okay. So it's pretty standard. Now I want to ask you the question. So that's pretty good. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now I want to ask you, so in terms of, obviously you work the front desk, right, of the office. Like you are the person who runs this ship, and you get to hear from clients when my door closes, all the stuff that they want to say to you. So what is some of the things that you've learned or seen or clients have told you that they have seen give them the most success? You hear the good, the bad, obviously, when people are calling or trying to reschedule and do things. So when you hear, what's the one thing that you commonly hear back from clients that they say, this was the game changer for me? What's that one thing that they say to you? Because I'm sure there's a common theme, right?
I think, especially lately, for the ones that we've seen in the office that have had success, they have said it's easy, oddly enough, and they've just actually followed the program. They're like, it was easy. I just looked at this, and I just followed it, and it was easy. But they've also put the time in. They've put the effort in to prep their food or get it ordered out by a meal prep company. Like, they've put the background work into it to be able to follow the steps. But once they've followed it, they've been really happy and surprised themselves. Some of them too. They've come in and just been like, whoa, I had no idea. Like, I had no idea I was going to get this result today. I felt good. They didn't expect it. Yeah.
Yeah. How many times do you hear when clients say, oh, I'm not going to get any results. I don't want to come in. And then they come in and you see them. And then all of a sudden they're so happy after the appointment because, we know that they're thinking that the 20% of what they didn't do, but they forgot about the 80% that is so consciously better that it's like, we got to show them that. And how many times you've probably seen that where they're like, oh, I felt better. But yeah, you hear all the stuff before they walk into the office of like, oh, I didn't want to be here today. But it's I think one of the things that I want to share that with clients is because everybody goes through that same emotion. Like, how many clients come in and be like, I didn't want to come today, but I knew I had to get the new protocol and I needed to talk to us and just to get things back. How many people in a day? So we probably see about 8 to 10 people a day. How many people come in and say that to you in a day or a week?
I wouldn't say it happens every day, but probably like 5 times a week. Yeah. And it depends on the time of the year too, right? Yeah. Like September, there was a lot more of that. You heard a lot more of that than you will in November, right? Yeah. And same with January. There'll be people that are like, I don't want to come in, but really, we're not here to judge you. We're here to support you. So come in, see us. And we're going to pick out the things that, like you say, that they're not seeing. They're going to be focusing on those couple things that they're missing. And we'll go, but what about this? You're doing great in this category. So just come in, just show up.
And so what's one thing, so I had two more questions. What's one thing that you have learned about nutrition in the past year that you think everybody should know? Like what's one random thing that you're like, you know what? This is something that I learned, that I've practiced, that I've seen it successful. What's something that you've done or changed with your children or your spouse or yourself that you've seen a big bang for the buck change? What, anything?
I gotta say, it's probably eating more protein.
Okay.
Yeah, it was something that I knew you always had to consume protein, but over the past bit, I've really been listening to a lot of people like, no, you need to consume like more protein, like focus on that. That should be the primary thing on your like your first focus. And we've been doing that. And for me, it's been good. But where I've noticed the biggest difference has actually been in the kids.
Yeah. Gotcha.
In their,
do you notice?
just their mood level, like way less of the blood sugar imbalance. They're much more stable. For my one, it's great. He loves protein. It's not a problem. The other is, it's like pulling teeth together to eat anything that's not a bread, right? Like,
yeah.
But we're getting there. We're working there. But I noticed when they are eating more of it and it's more stable in their daily routine, their moods are so much better. I mean, maybe mine is too. Somebody could tell me if it's working. I can't.
Oh, you're never in a bad mood. That's the one thing that's
yeah.
good for me when I come in. Well, I mean, you have a little moment, but like compared to me, I'm like, it's way more stable than me. So, which is good. So now the last question, what's Amanda's kryptonite food? So what's your kryptonite? I already know it and I just want you to share it. And then you can kind of give us insight to why you changed it. Because I always asked you, it was your birthday recently. I asked you, did you have a lot of it? And so I'll let you tell. So tell us your kryptonite food.
Okay. I really love chocolate, dark chocolate, but chocolate in general. Chocolate torts really was like a nut crust, almost like a vegan cheesecake thing. That's like by far my favorite. I haven't been having much chocolate. It's been maybe almost 4 months now.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it was hard for me because it was one of those things that I was having like every day after dinner. Like I had to have it. Like I craved it. I was like, I need my 3 pieces of chocolate. And if I don't have it, go to the store and get it. So I was noticing that routine in general wasn't great. I was having a lot of skin issues, lots of brain fog. I just wasn't feeling that good. And I thought, what am I eating every day? There's a bunch of things I eat every day, but let's start with taking out the chocolate. Needless to say, I've been feeling a little bit better. I had chocolate on my birthday. I'm not going to lie. It was delicious.
How much did you eat?
It was
like a bar, or are we talking
half
like
of
half
a
a bar?
dark chocolate Ritter Sport, half of a Ritter Sport.
Yeah.
Not my choice of chocolate. It was bought for me, but it was still delicious. Yeah. But it just, I can't stop with it. It's one of those things, like I'd eat chocolate chips out of the bag.
What's the most you've eaten in a day? Like in the past year, before you gave it up, what was your tipping point? Like where you're like, okay, this has got to go.
Probably like 2 chocolate bars.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But like good chocolate, not like a Kit Kat, but yeah, no, it was something that I just couldn't do. And I think everybody has a food that gets them, right? I know you do.
That's why we're sharing. That's why I want people to know that, a lot of people talk to us about like cravings and different foods, and they have a kryptonite foods. Everybody has a kryptonite food that once they start, they can't stop. And that's why I wanted to share that with everybody, is that everybody is going through their own same struggle in some food type that they need to. But it's like you said, for you, you were able to cut it because A, you saw the pattern that you were eating more, but 2, you weren't feeling well after you eat it. So what did you replace? So this is the other one. So basically what I look at is you felt worse after chocolate. So obviously you had to find some replacement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was your replacement for that sweet tooth at the end of the meal? Because that's the biggest one, right? Is like, for me, it's ice cream. So I just stay away from it, but I just can't eat it, right? But I don't want a replacement to it, because if I eat cold sorbet, it's still going to drink, so I just don't eat it. The key is that there's a replacement for something. So for me, I'll have a cookie and I can eat 1 and I'm good. But if I eat ice cream, I have to eat 3 tubs. So how did you? What was the thing that you made the change to?
I started with dates, like a medjool date with sea salt. That
Gotcha.
was kind of what I went to. And then after a while, I was like, oh, I don't really need the sweet. But I also wonder if that has to do with also increasing my protein so much over the past year, if that's made a difference as well. So still, but I love dates now. Like, I love them. I will get no problem, bust it in half, dip it in some sea salt, and it's delicious. So if I'm craving something sweet, because I don't keep chocolate in the house anymore, there's chocolate chips for the kids for making cookies, but I actually don't even like, I'm over that. You reach that point where you're like, I actually don't really love this as much. I've heard you say that about it too. You're like, I think I'm kind of over this thing.
Yeah.
Dates was what I used for that post-dinner needing a sweet treat.
But what you said is it went from chocolate to getting to too much chocolate, to the tipping point of not feeling well with it, to finding a replacement, to now you have control over it. So what was the time period of that? 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, 2 months?
From the tipping point, it took me a bit, like after when I ate those 2 chocolate bars, it took still, like I was still eating chocolate a couple times a week. Like there was a gradual sort of weaning process until now. So I would say it's probably been like 6 months.
That's a great story, right? I think that people think they need to have willpower and cut it right away. It's like, hey, it's progression. You can do it over a time period. And so how many times since you've cut it that 4 months have you actually eaten chocolate? Probably. So your birthday in the past month, how many times have you eaten chocolate?
Oh, like twice.
Okay. Now you've got a tough birthday month, chocolate, and you got Halloween coming up.
That's see, I'm saving myself.
Yeah, you're saving yourself. But that's good. But it went 4 months. You still had it a couple times. Now you have control over it. You notice the difference, obviously, when you eat it to where you didn't, right? That's the key. So no longer. So that's awesome. That's great. Okay. So that's our interview with you, Amanda. Anything else you want to share? I think we kind of cut it. We got everything that we need there, right?
Sounds good. Works for me.
Amazing. Thank you very much for coming on. If you guys want to, have questions for Amanda and you guys want to give her chocolate bars or talk to her about chocolate, I'm sure. So now you have someone that when you call the office understands you. And that's important, right? That we all have our thing that we go through ourselves, even as practitioners. We're not superhuman. We have our own little kryptonite foods that we like and we all struggle through it. So we're human. And I feel like that's one of the things why when people call us, we don't judge, we just observe and we totally know what you're going through because we've been through it ourselves. So thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for listening to everybody and have a great day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.